What's going on, Cloud Scholars? I hope your day is going well. My name is Kieran Tross, and I'm your host for today's video. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about what is the difference between Microsoft Azure and Office 365. So one thing I will tell you is I've been getting this question quite a lot recently, where people are saying, "Hey, I'm using Microsoft Azure, but I'm learning Azure, but why do I need to learn Office 365? What is it?" And then I'm also getting questions where it's like, "Hey, I'm using Office 365, but I'm hearing about Microsoft Azure. Why do I need to understand Microsoft Azure?" And that one I tend to get a little bit more. And the one of the things I would tell you is when it comes to both of these products, they're both Microsoft products. But what I would say to you is, learning both will definitely help you out. They kind of work hand in hand with each other, but you can use one without the other. So Office 365 is more of a collaboration tool, and Microsoft Azure is more of a tool that you will use for infrastructure and design. Like if you want to set up a website, you want to do certain things like that. Office 365 is more collaboration. It's got a lot of different applications with Office 365. You're thinking about Microsoft Office. You're thinking about Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but then you also go into OneDrive, SharePoint. You've got Power Apps. You got Power Automate. You've got a lot of different applications within Office 365 toolset that you can use, and you can utilize it for you to collaborate with not only internal staff but external people as well. Let's just say if you're trying to deploy something for contractors or whoever, you can utilize it. But then you have the whole other side of Azure where you can do a lot of different things as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to a PowerPoint slide because I think graphics help out with expressing information. So what we're going to do is jump to a PowerPoint slide really quickly. I'm not going to bore you to death. I promise you that. Something really quick and simple, and I think it will get a better understanding for everyone out there who has this question. All right, so we've got Azure versus Office 365. So we're going to treat this like a heavyweight fight, but no one's going to get knocked out. Okay, so we've got Office 365. So Microsoft Office 365 is a subscription-based online Office and Software Plus service suite, which includes access to various Office applications, emails, and online storage. If you remember before, I was talking about the collaboration. So with Office 365, you're going to be collaborating. You're going to, use Microsoft Word. You're going to use Excel. You're going to use these different applications, and then you're going to attach to an email, and you're going to send to whoever you need to send it to. But then you also have the other side of it of saying, okay, I'm not even going to send this to email. I'm going to use it within OneDrive. I'm going to use it within SharePoint. And then you have your areas where you can collaborate with your team and invite them into these specific spaces, such as Teams, so that this way that you all can utilize and see the documentation yourselves. And then you have Azure. So Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform and infrastructure created by Microsoft for building, deploying, and managing applications and services through a global network of Microsoft managed data centers. So with Microsoft Azure, you're doing a ton of other different things. You are utilizing Microsoft Azure as your infrastructure, but then you can use Office 365 on top of that. So I want to talk a little bit more about Office 365 and talk about how we mix them two together. So let's talk about the main applications within Office 365. So I know many of you have heard of these tools already, which is Word, which is a word processing application. You've got Excel for your spreadsheets. You've got PowerPoint for presentation for applications and delivering for presentations, such as what I'm using right now. Then you have email, right? Just your Outlook. So you're using that for your email and managing emails, calendars, and contacts. You have OneNote, a note-taking application for organizing and sharing notes and information. Then you have Teams. Teams is a huge application. At one point, everyone was using Skype, but now it's Teams. And it's a collaboration and communication platform that integrates with other Office 365 apps. So you can chat within Teams, you can make phone calls within Teams, you can share files. So those same Word, Excel files, you can put them in a folder in Teams and you can share it there so that this way everybody can utilize it. And then what's the backbone of Teams and all these other applications, which is SharePoint. It's a web-based collaboration and document management platform. So if you're ever in Teams and you're looking at the URL for if you save a document within a folder within Teams, if you look at that URL carefully, you'll see that it'll start off with SharePoint. And then you have OneDrive. It's a cloud-based file storage and sharing service. So for many of you who have been using Google Drive, think of OneDrive as the same thing. You're just saying, okay, I have my hard drive in the cloud, and then I can access it, and then I can see whatever I need to see within it. And then you can also save a copy of that same storage onto your local computer. And then if you make any changes to that repository in your local computer, then those changes get sent up to the cloud. So this way your data stays in sync. So let's talk about a couple applications that you probably may not have heard of. So one is Microsoft Power Apps. So Microsoft Power Apps is a part of the Office 365 suite and a low code platform for building custom business application. Power Apps allow users to create custom apps for their organization without the need for extensive technical knowledge or coding experience. So the great thing about Microsoft Power Apps is that Microsoft Power Apps is a way for you to get an introduction to coding. It takes a little while to understand and learn Power Apps, but I'm a self-taught coder. I taught myself, Objective C. Then I went to Swift. From there, I started doing Java for Android development, and then I went to React Native for JavaScript. And one thing I would tell you is that this is definitely a tool that you can use to start coding, and you won't have to worry about that learning curve. With other learning other coding languages, it definitely much harder pill to swallow. Now with Microsoft Power Apps, is this something that it comes much easier? At least that's how I feel about it. But a lot of other people I've spoken to say that Power Apps is just something much easier for people who just don't want to be crazy coders, but want to still be able to get the job done. And one thing I will tell you about Microsoft Ignite that they have. Power Apps is definitely a tool that's growing. And the field to learn Power Apps is growing as well. I mean, there's a lot of Power Apps jobs that are coming on the market, so it's something that you can really do. You can develop, proprietary applications using Microsoft Power Apps. Okay, another application that you can use, another tool you can use within the Office 365 suite is Power Automate. Users can automate repetitive tasks and workflows across multiple applications and services, including Office 365, Dynamics 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, and more. So I'm not gonna read through that whole splur right there, but what I want to do is kind of just talk a little bit more person to person with you about Power Automate. So Power Automate, it's a great tool, and I can understand why this could kind of get a bit confusing. And one thing I will tell you is that start to use these applications. Even if you were to try to spin it up yourself, or you would try to say, okay, let me, pay for some of these services. It's relatively cheap. You could do it for less than $100 a month, and it's just for you to build your skill set. That this way you can grow within your career. And with Power Automate, it can span and utilize all these different applications that we already spoke of. And the great thing about Power Automate, you can work with Power Apps with Power Automate. You can do streamline different services and processes that you want to do. So let's just say you have a documentation there. You're like, hey, we need to do, I don't know, we need to do refills of inventory, and you can say, okay, when inventory hits, stock level hits, I don't know, 100 cases, then send a reminder email to the production team, or the inventory team, and say, hey, please order X, right? And whatever X is that document or that item that reached to 100. So these are the kind of things that you can do with Power Automate. Power Automate is a great tool for you to utilize within your organization. It definitely frees up a ton of time, and it's pretty cool. It shows you a process of how you can utilize Power Automate from a workflow standpoint, and then you can send out emails and reminders to whomever within your organization. But it can definitely be used for more than email reminders. It could be used for a ton of other different items. So we talked a lot about Office 365. I do want to highlight a bit about Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure, you can use it for infrastructure, I said before, but then you have your virtual machines. So let's start off there. So you can set up virtual machines if you want to say, okay, we have an environment where we have a lot of people who are on premises, where they have laptops and desktops, but then you have contractors, and you're like, hey, they're going to be doing some billing for us, but we don't want to, we want to make sure it's secure. So what we can do is we can set up something called Azure Virtual Desktops, or you can set up virtual desktops for them to log in, you give them credentials, and you have on those virtual desktops all your applications that they'll need to utilize. So they're still within your environment. You give them a secure way of logging in, and they're able to work within your environment. So there are some of the different things that you can use within Azure is for infrastructure support. Then you have app services, which are able to host web applications. So you can spin up a web server, host your applications on it, and then you can use it for your internal staff within your organization, or you can use it that is customer facing, where customers will be logging in using credentials such as their Google Gmail account, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. Is entirely up to you. Then you have storage, where you would be using Azure storage accounts, where you can set up information as well. Unstructured storage using blobs. You could do table storage. You could do queue storage for messages, so on and so forth. Then you have your databases, your SQL databases. You also have networking that you can utilize within Azure. So if you have an organization and you have things, let's just say an environment in, I don't know, New York, and you're like, hey, we need to spin up something on the West Coast. You could set it up on the West Coast, or you could set up even, let's just say you need to do a backup. And you're like, okay, we're going to do a backup within the cloud because it's easier for us to set it up versus finding a data center, finding another location to do certain things. It just takes such a long time. So, this video, probably isn't for anybody who's extremely, extremely technical watching this video. I apologize. I'm just trying to go through some of the different things that you'll understand and see when you start getting a little bit more in depth with using Microsoft Azure, if that's the case you're going, or if you're just watching this video for information purposes. So then we have analytics. Analytics provides services for processing and analyzing big data, including Azure Stream Analytics, Azure Data Factory, and HD Insights. It's really about saying, okay, what's going on with this data, and getting an understanding of what that is. And then you have your AI and machine learning, and then you have your containers. So there is a ton of different things that you can use within Azure. Just think of Azure as more of a infrastructure. Hey, this is what I need to build, set up, so that this way that I can run this business. And then you think of Office 365, to be honest with you, as a collaboration. Okay, we need to share documents with each other. We need to be able to show and do presentations. Or we need to be able to really be able to communicate and send messages amongst each other. That's really what I would say the difference is. It's really collaboration versus infrastructure. All right, Cloud Scholars, we have reached the end of this video. I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed the content that I provided for you. If you have any more questions or anything like that, please leave a comment, and I'm more than happy to respond to you. As always, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate you doing that. And the goal over here at Cloud Scholars is to get you from scholar to consultant and from consultant to expert. Thank you, and see you next time.